first two are closely related. Bless you. Bounce and fall platform. So it's got two things you can change, the force and stun time inside of the bounce. How far the player is going to be pushed back. Stun time, how long they are stunned. So stun means they can't move. Close your eyes. Imagine. Okay, we're back. Yeah, a couple of things we can change in the inspector. How long the player is stunned. So if you have hazards that are moving around, it can be quite stressful. You get stunned, you cannot move your player for a couple of seconds. On the fall platform, it's going to disappear after a certain period. So again, back in my obstacle course pack and in my prefabs, you can find all of these. Bounce platform. And our fall platform. I'll just duplicate a couple of times. So I can hit this thing. It's going to rebound me. And while I'm being stunned, I can't really move. It's not really noticeable there, but if I change the bounce settings, I can increase the force, and I can increase the stun time. Let's say we bring it up to 10, and we make the stun time a full second. Now bounce, and it's launching me ever further, close to the kill zone. I can increase that force again to 15. And now it's a hazard that's going to drop me right into the soup. Oh. So the stun time and the force are working together, because if I could move, I'd be able to stop myself from falling off. Lower my stun time again, and now I should be able to save myself. And the platforms just disappear after you touch them for a certain amount of seconds. So after half a second, it disappears. Now, all of these are purple, and instead of going through these one by one and adding a material to each one, think it'd be better if I adjusted the prefab and then it would automatically update all of these for us. So we can actually open up our prefab by double clicking on any one of these here, and it'll open up in its own separate view. So if I open up the fall platform, you can see it has this material. I can change its material in Mesh Renderer. So I've double clicked on the fall platform. I have the prefab open in its own view. And I can get back to my main scene just by clicking this little arrow. And yeah, I can just change its material, update it here to something that I have already in. You can make your own materials, but yeah. So just change that to a different material. And you'll see it's updated all three of these in my scene. And now every time I create another one, it'll have a material that isn't pink. So I'll do that with the bounce platform as well. I'll just grab some materials here. Yellow. Flip on top. And again, it's updated. I'll go ahead and create a bridge. Make a bridge between these two. Duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. And now I've got a precarious bridge to go between my two towers. Bing, 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 bing. Precarious. We can also use that script and apply it to other objects. So we have our wedges that are similar to the fall platform. The fall platform is just a cube with a collider and this script fall flat on it. So any object with a collider will work with this script. There is a way, yeah, you could instantiate a rigid, or you could enable a rigid body instead of making them fall. You could enable gravity on them and have them fall. Let's try and do that. That's a good suggestion. So let's look at the script. Obstacle. Script. using an on collision enter. So when we touch, the collision starts. And then if it's the player, then it starts this coroutine, fall time, which is down here. It waits for a number of seconds, which is a variable we have here, fall time. And then it destroys the game object. So this is where, if you wanted it to fall, this is where you add the logic, make this fall. Which could be by possibly by enabling a rigid body on platform. Enabling rigid body gravity. So you could have it not using gravity, and then once we touch it, after a few seconds, it would perform it here. Or when it gets destroyed, you could instantiate a cube in its place. That might actually be easier. I think we could do that. But my point is that you could just apply it to other objects, such as these wedges here, and then they would also disappear. We could do the following thing as well. Here's wedge number 2. And I'll just add the fall platform script to it. In fact, I'll do it for, let's do it for all the wedges. Wedge. Add component. Scripts. And I want fall platform. So now all of these wedges they all have this script attached. So the second I touch one, I'll have half a second. Oh, oh, it's gone. Oh, it's gone. Oh, no, failed. Another good thing to implement, something to look into, is resetting them after they disappear. So to make a platform that actually falls, I'm going to go with the instantiation one. What I'm going to do first is make a prefab that's the exact same shape as my platform. It doesn't have the fall plat script on it. I'm going to remove that. I'm going to call this the flat rigid body. And I'm going to add the rigid body. It is using gravity. You can see it falls. Oh, really falls. So basically, the second the platform disappears, I want to instantiate in a place like a magic trick. Put it right in there. In order to do that, I need this to be a prefab that I can instantiate. How do we make a prefab? We just drag our object into our prefabs folder. There's my rigid body fall platform. I'm going to go ahead and add this in here. And it's going to ask me if I want a prefab variant. I'm going to say a new original prefab. I don't want to mess with the original fall platform script because it's working well, so I'm going to make a copy of this. Control C, Control V, copy, paste. And now I have fall plat 1. And there's a bunch of errors because they have the same parameter types for fall. Yeah, the enumerator. So I'm going to have to make some changes. One, I'm going to change the class to fall plat 1. And I'm just going to change the coroutine to fall 1. Fall 1. Because that already exists in another script, I can't call the same enumerator in two scripts. And then I want to make a public game object, which I'm going to call prefab. We can set that in the inspector. This is going to be our rigid body platform. And once again, consult the Unity docs for instantiate, and you can see its use. It's very simple. It's instantiate. We have parentheses, and we have the name of the object we're going to instantiate, and usually where it's going to be instantiated. So yeah, we can just instantiate object name, or instantiate object where the transform is, or position in space. Similar to what we have here, public game object prefab, instantiate prefab, and then we can say where it's going to be and what its rotation is. Quaternion identity just means default rotation, measuring quaternions. So whatever rotation it is when we save it as a prefab. And that's some complicated weird math. So, back in our script, we're destroying the game object, and then we're going to instantiate prefab dot position quaternion dot identity. Is that a capital Q? I think it is. It's just, again, this is why we have the reference. Yep, capital Q for quaternion. This will make a copy of our prefab. It'll put it at the position of the thing with its default rotation after it destroys the original, although this might create a conflict. Didn't think about that. Might destroy it before we can instantiate. We might have to flip this line up ahead. Anyway, let's test. So I'm going to add our fall plat 1 script to these 3 that I have floating in the air. Scripts, fall plat 1. And you see it's looking, the difference in our script is that we're looking for a prefab to be instantiated. We're going to use the one we created, rigid body fall platform. I'm looking in assets. I want to draw from memory. There it is, fall plat rigid body. Let's see if this actually works. Okay, that one disappears. It works. It just rotated slightly differently. Okay, there we go. Quaternion wasn't the right call. I should have used transform.rotation. But now they fall. Or they appeared to fall, but really one gets deleted. Oh, three of them appeared. What's going on there? But anyway, the final code of that, instead of using quaternion identity, which gives the prefab's default rotation, I use transform rotation, which gives this object's rotation. Yeah, so one gets destroyed, the main one gets destroyed, and then it creates another one, which is our prefab that we have in memory here in prefabs. This one, fall platform rigid body. So yeah, it just puts one in its place, and you won't notice the difference. Yeah, yeah. Like when there's pieces flying off something, like they're just coming from nowhere, but they look like they're coming from, say, a car hitting the side and you see parts flying off. They're instantiating extra props to throw. Yeah. Whew. Anyway, that was a fun challenge. Thanks. Let's move forward. Yes, we got some movable objects. It says object bounce away, and it moves. We can say how far it's going to move, whether it moves left and right or forward and backwards, how fast you can move. And this one has the same bounce script that is for the, with the stun and the force. Has the same one attached to it. And yeah, all of these are purple. I'm actually just going to go through and start adding some color. Just double click and open it up and just change the materials around. In mesh render, just change that. Pendulum can't see the mesh render because it's all hidden in different objects here. Two separate objects. Good idea at this stage to save if you haven't saved in a while. So yep, movable object and movable wall, they both use the same script for movement, so they both behave exactly the same way. If I drop one in, I'll drop the other one in. Press play, you can see them both moving left and right. So again, just adds an extra barrier. If I was doing something, like I could even put them along the bridge. They could be forcing me off. Different settings for distance. So you can go further. I can increase that speed. And see, it just shows me out of the way. And again, similar to the bounce, well, because it is the same script, we have force, and we have stun time. I can increase that if I want. 24 seconds, which is so long to be stunned. So now this really has a consequence if I touch this thing. Oh, I'm off the edge. I'm totally off the edge. Can't move for 4 seconds. Poisoned. Oh, done. Done. Oh. And it's pretty much the same controls for this big movable wall. It's just this is more of a, you can actually climb on this one. That's why it's significant. Oh, I'm gone. Again, controls for speed. We have a checkbox to say which direction it's going, horizontal or forward direction. If I uncheck it, see it starts moving the other direction. If you ever need to snap an object, you want it to be perfectly lined up. The command V works as a little snapping tool, so I can get my actual vertex point here and snap it perfectly to the side of something just by holding the letter V. I'm going to duplicate again. V. Snap that in there. Control D, duplicates. And then, yeah, my kill zone isn't large enough. I'm going to have to scale that out a little bit so I can catch all of my level. I think he should be going the other direction. So let me change that. And just by modifying their speeds, the depot speed is 3, this next one has the speed of 4, this next one 5, and so on. They won't be in sync anymore. Just by changing their move speed from the default 3. Again, we just want to make it as challenging as possible. Oop, 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 oop. I made it. It was too easy. Movable wall, not much to say about it. It goes up and down. The same script as the other movable obstacles. Goes up, goes down. Put a barrier, can slow you down for a moment. Pendulum, again, it has the same knockback script, so it'll stun and move you. Maybe I should put it somewhere desperately better. So yeah, this bounce script gets used quite a lot in these assets. Force and stun time, you can see it on the actual ball. Bounce script is on the ball. Again, there's different settings for the limit of the swing. How much is going to swing by. The speed. Which is really bad. And our limit, which limits the angle. So at 0, it's obviously limited to 0 movement. 10 degrees, it's a very, very short. 180, oh. It goes all the way up and all the way around. 360, it spins a full 360. Bonk. Little tap, little tap. It'll be the same force because the force is handled by the script, not by how fast something's moving. The same amount of knockback, which is good because you can control it then, depending on what your platform is. So with that big crazy swinging one, I want to make that have lots and lots of force because it's swinging so hard. Let's say 60. Stun time, 1 whole second. I can whoa, jeez, he launched me. Bash shell. Yeah, the remaining ones are mostly physics ones that we can move through. So the rotator is just there as a distraction. It spins. And again, it has the bounce script. It's going to knock you off. You can say how fast it's going to spin by. It is. It just rotates. Just there to, knock you around. Slow you down. Yeah, and this next one, rotation platform. This is why we set our player's mass at 60, because otherwise it won't work. Rotation plant. It's a seesaw, essentially. So rigid body, and you can see it's got a hinge in the center, this little cylinder here. So I can tilt, up to a certain point, and then I just fall. What's interesting with the rotation X is that there's no script or anything on it. It is literally just a hinge joint. A bunch of them are just hinge joints, rigid body connections. We connect two things together and then they move around a hinge. It really is just there to slow you down, like a turnstile. So I can go through there, little turnstile, I can push it. Just for fun. I think we can also have this guy powered by, I don't know, hinges set. That's right. No, not quite. It's rattled it. Yeah, whatever. So anyway, that is all of the obstacles, really. Some of the other ones are just rigid body spheres and rigid body cubes. And yeah, just try and employ them in the best way possible. So we've got 30 minutes left to try and work up a level that has a good navigation flow, trying to use as many of the tricks as possible.